my channel. My name is Imara Aksemuta, and I am a faith and lifestyle YouTuber based in Lagos State, Nigeria. Anyways, today I will be talking about boundaries, what they are, and why we need to set them. So basically, boundaries are lines that are supposed to be drawn. But because I wanted to be politically correct, I decided that I would get it. This is my notebook, and I have like a few things, jotted down about boundaries. So, the Oxford Dictionary defines boundaries as a line which marks the limits of an area, a dividing line. Merriam-Webster goes on to define a boundary as a line that indicates or fixes a limit or extent. So, a boundary is basically the line that separates us from the other person, where I start and stop and where the other person begins. That is how it is. So you know how to separate yourself, like, okay, this is for me, this is not for me. That is what boundaries are about. Why should you set boundaries? Setting boundaries will help you have control of yourself and your environment. It helps you have a better life basically, and puts you in a better mental state. If you do not have boundaries, you people would take advantage of you, people would ride on you. But if you do have too rigid boundaries, people would want to distance themselves from you. So the goal is to be able to set healthy or healthier boundaries, so that like people are not staying away from you, but people are also respecting you in the process. So we have several types of boundaries, and I will just mention a few for a more detailed understanding of what boundaries are. They are physical boundaries, behavioral boundaries, mental/emotional boundaries, sexual boundaries, professional boundaries, and financial boundaries. So basically, physical boundaries are you boundaries are like, oh, I don't like people in my space, or give me some space when you're approaching me. I don't want to hug you, I can hug you, or I would give you a handshake. There's also behavioral boundaries, like people who can shout, people who gaslighting, manipulation, to avoid things like that. They are mental emotional boundaries, people who just push your limit when they know that this will trigger you, but they would still do it regardless. Then there is professional boundaries. Okay, this is work, and I like to keep my work as it is. I do not like to mix it with pleasure. I want my work to be my work. Oh, I can't do that. I can't talk like this when I am with my bosses, or I can't dress like this in the office spaces, or oh, I don't wear slippers to the office and stuff like that. Those are professional boundaries. And financial boundaries is, oh, I'm not going to overspend. I'm not going to go over budget just because you did not plan well. I am not going to do this. So basically, it's all one thing. It's just basically not going beyond yourself just to please people, or killing yourself just to please people. It's doing what you can do per time. That's what boundary is. It is not a way to keep others away, it is a way to have healthy relationships with people. So that's the first thing you need to know, because some people think that when you have boundaries you are rigid. No, it is just so that you can be able to have a healthy relationship with people. And trust me, people who have boundaries have healthier relationships. I've seen it. And I think that it is important, because a lot of us in our adult life do not have boundaries, do not like boundaries, do not like when people set boundaries for us. um so let's talk about, first and foremost, you know how to set boundaries. You have to start small. You have to pick it one step at a time. You don't rush your boundaries. You start small. You start with a little one. You start with one year, 2 year. you have to drop it, because if you are dumping on people, it might be hard, especially when they are not used to it, especially when they are used to re- relating to you in a particular way. They have to be able to relate to you better. They have to still be able to relate to you. But this is, for instance, I will give a boundary, and this is a behavioral boundary. I personally do not like people shouting at me. If you shout at me, I tend to go into my shell. But I realize that I can't continuously go into my shell because of people, or just allow people bully me because they have louder voices or they shout. And to be honest, I'm also not innocent of that crime. Sometimes I shout too, especially when I feel like I'm not being heard. So one of the things that I have learned is that if someone is shouting for me, if someone is shouting at me, one of the things that I can do or say is, if it's an older person, I would wait for the person to calm down and go and meet them and say, I didn't do this and I did not like it. Now that I'm older, I can do it. But growing up, it wasn't really possible. But let me put this with your age mates, with your colleagues, with your bosses at work and everything. If someone is shouting at you, depending on the relationship, you will have to tell the person, especially those who are close colleagues, age mates, because this is Nigeria and boundaries are harder to set with older people. When I've learned it, I'll come and tell you people. For now, let's stick with the people that I know how to, relate with. So I would meet the person and say, I noticed that okay. I noticed that you raise your voice at me every time we're having an every time we're having a discussion and we are not agreeing. It is fine for us not to agree, but what is not fine is for you to raise your voice at me and shout at me. I feel it makes me feel disrespected. Don't say I feel like you're disrespecting me. No. Tell them how it makes you feel, not how you think they are treating you. How their action makes you feel. It makes me feel disrespected. It makes me feel small. It makes me feel like I am being taken for granted. Tell them that, please, I do not appreciate it. And moving forward, I would not like it. There, you have introduced them to your boundaries. To add a little, let's add a little more spice to it, you would now tell them, please, next time, if you raise your voice at me again, I would walk away. You would tell them that there are going to be repercussions for their actions. You tell them these repercussions. One, for me is I would walk away. Two, I would zone out of that conversation. Three, I would not speak to you until I feel better. So that when you do it, it doesn't seem like you're being dismissive, or you're not acting. So they already know. Chances are they are, because they are used to it, because we are creatures of our habits, because they are used to shouting at you and you've been taking it, chances are they would repeat it. And they would not repeat it, not because, sometimes it's not because they do not respect you, it's just a habitual thing. So when they repeat it, make sure that some of the actions you said you were going to take, the repercussions, you actually go through with them. You walk away from the conversation. You say you don't want to have that conversation again. Yes, you walk away because the person has started to raise your voice. And we're not animals, we're humans. You will talk to me with dignity. And if you do not want to talk to me with dignity, that's fine by you, but I will not sit for you to disrespect me. That's setting a boundary. That's an example of setting a boundary with yourself. An example of setting boundaries that's an example of setting boundaries with others. An example of setting boundaries with yourself, it's a lot harder. Setting boundaries with yourself looks like, when it is 7 p.m., regardless of where I am, regardless of what I do, I would not watch TV anymore, or I would not eat anymore, or I would only allow myself 1 hour of TV. I will not impulse buy. I will not buy. I will not just go to the market and start impulsively buying. I will not go beyond my budget for the day or for the month. This is actually more difficult than setting boundaries with others. But one of the things that I have learned is that you need a lot of discipline to set boundaries with yourself. And when you can successfully set boundaries with yourself and stick with them, you would now be able to stand by the boundaries that you are setting for others without feeling guilty about the boundaries you have set. Because sometimes people would make you feel guilty for setting boundaries, but that's their concern, not yours. It is important that you set boundaries for yourself and for others because you want to be respected, because you want to have a good life generally. You want to feel at peace with yourself. You want to feel at peace in your relationship. So in your relationships, so it is necessary for you and for me to set boundaries. Everybody has to have boundaries. As Take for instance, another one I would like to say, sexual boundaries. For instance, you're in a relationship, you do not want to kiss, you do not want to make out, you do not want to have sex. You would have to state it. Oh, this is how far I can go, this is where I stop. I would not do that. If you push me past this point, I would either end this relationship or I would not talk to you for a while. It is not emotional abuse. It is standing up for yourself. It is standing up for your beliefs. Because when you thoroughly believe in while you're setting the boundaries, it works. So first and foremost, the most important thing to ask yourself for every time you set a boundary is, why am I setting this boundary? For me, if I'm setting a boundary with a friend because that friend is always shouting at me when we are having a disagreement, it is because I do not want to feel small. I do not want to be bullied. I feel like I'm being bullied, so I try as much as possible to say, you know what, we are peers. You can't bully me. You can't talk to me in a certain way. You have to respect me as a person. So it is very important that you set boundaries every time. Start small, start with the smaller things. Just, put it out there. And when you're setting boundaries for yourself, it can be hard. So you can get accountability partners, people who actually believe in you, people who respect you, not people who do not respect you, people who respect you. For instance, I have been very, very much looking at myself like, oh no, I think I need to do better with how I eat so I don't add more weight and all of that. I need to actually be healthy. And when I'm eating, or I want to eat at night, my friend reminds me. She's like, but babe, and I know sometimes I'll be like, why you trying to kill my flow? But at the end of the day, it is important that you have people who love you, who care about your boundaries, and would respect them. Another thing that you should note is that do not be scared of setting boundaries with you for your loved ones. Set those boundaries. Tell them about these boundaries. But what you need to do is you need to be very, very careful how you set them. Do not be scared. Just take it easy, because humans don't like change. We say, oh, change is constant, but we are people who, because change is uncomfortable most times, so we do not like change. So, and also you don't want your friends walking on eggshells around you, so it's best. I personally, I'm not a confrontational person, but I'm becoming more, how would I say it, I'm becoming more vocal when I feel a certain kind of way. If I feel that, oh, you spoke to me in a certain kind of way, I didn't like how 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 I felt when you said something to me, I'm going to call you out on it. And I know I'm saying call out, I'm not saying embarrass you. I'm just going to call you to the corner when the moods are separate. This is another thing about setting boundaries, is you need to also study the mood. It's not in the midst of that disagreement that you would be setting the boundaries. You have to set them before or just immediately after it has happened. You need to tell them, because you too, you have to be calm so that you know it's coming from a clear place. It's not coming out of spite. Thank you very much. I hope that this video was very helpful to people who are struggling with setting boundaries. There is a book called Boundaries. Henry Dr. Henry Cloud and Dr. John Townsend. It's I That book really helps me, and it has like setting boundaries with up to even God. So you need to be able to, it's a Christian book because it does have a lot of Bible verses. So if you get that book, it's fine. I do have it. If you want to borrow it and you're in Lagos, you can reach out to me, but you have to return my book back. Thank you very much, guys. Have a wonderful time. Do not forget to like, share, and subscribe. Bye.